the path to the divine is truly about surrendering. We can surrender via devotion, via bhakti, or we can surrender our sense of I via self-enquiry. One is drawn more focused inwardly, another one is more focused outwardly, and thus reconnecting inwardly. But essentially, it is about surrendering. Surrendering is actually empowering, becoming closer, becoming more empowered to be in the presence of divine, to be one with the divine as divine. So that is the correct way of surrendering. When you get closer to divine, when you become more empowered. Many times, many spiritual circles forget about this and they focus on longing. So I have seen again and again many bhakti circles and songs which are well intended to chant the mantras and sing the spiritual songs, but all they do is create a sense of longing in the heart, a sense of missingness in the heart. And eventually, after 5 or 10 years of either singing these kind of songs or participating in these kind of circles, we may see that the practitioners didn't get anywhere closer to divine. They just developed a strong sense of longing. And that actually energy is put in the unfruitful way. A correct sense of longing is getting in touch with the divine, experiencing it, getting to feel it, and then remembering this feeling, putting some effort into practices, purifications, and what needs to be done to get closer to the divine. That is a correct way of longing or desiring in a fruitful way. Yet again, there is a desiring in the unfruitful way, where one wants and desires for enlightenment or divinity. But that desire creates a sense of helplessness, a sense of longing again, and just performing the practices, the rituals, the mantras for the sake of desiring for the divine or enlightenment. So that's where we need to have a clear eye of discernment, a clear eye of bearing the fruits. So we may surrender to the divine, to open to it, to come closer to it, not to feel more helpless and more longing in the heart. We may develop a desire for enlightenment, for freedom, for the divine. But when these both things are connected in the empowering way, then we can rest assured that we are getting closer and we're doing something right. Now, looking at the divine from other perspective, we may observe ourselves and notice what one is supporting, which is not divine. I call this bhakti inquiry. What one is supporting, which is not divine. And one says, well, I'm only human, and this and that. And this idea keeps you only human. There are many examples of many sages. For example, Ramakrishna, how he was extremely focused on devotion to goddess Kali. And many people thought that he went mad of being devoted to goddess Kali. And he would even nearly walk like her and be completely immersed, and for somebody not knowing what's going on, that would seem to be very weird. But that was his extreme devotion to goddess Kali, and he attained liberation. He attained a very high degree of closeness to the divine. And therefore, later on, he had a student, Swami Vivekananda, who became his student and brought yogic knowledge to the West. So that is just one example of extreme devotion that brings you or uplifts you beyond your own limitations. So these ideas of I'm only human and this and that are simply keeping you lower. Whatever you confirm to yourself as yourself or as your own experience, that's what it is. So therefore, we learn about these higher ways, higher qualities. One of the great ways, which is actually pretty common knowledge in a Christian tradition, if one has read the Bible very closely and knows the words of Jesus, when facing a certain life situation, one may ask, what would Jesus do in this situation? Same applies to any other tradition. So you may ask, what would this being would do in this situation? So whenever you have an obstacle that you cannot overcome or cannot find a way, you may ask, what would this higher being do in this situation? And this instantly opens the doors to connect with this higher being at first, because you keep him or her in your mind, in your attention. And then you open yourself with a question, what would this being do in this situation? You open yourself beyond your limitation to receive higher alignment, higher attunement. That is a form of surrender, of empowering surrender. I heard a quote that there is no darkness in the universe and in the galaxy. It is only when the earth turns one side away from the sun from the light, that the darkness is experienced. But essentially, the darkness does not exist because it's just a contrast of lack of light. So from the source, God consciousness, which is all light, as manifestation is created, there are many objects in the universe. And only when these objects turn around, or relatively speaking, another being perceives or sees that side of the planet, which we generally call night, only from that perspective that there is night or darkness. But in actuality, it doesn't exist because the sun always shines, always, 24/7. So the same way that divine always exists, your divine self always exists, is just that there are some objects blocking its light. And these objects may be some beliefs, some assumptions, some ideas, and generally it's called ignorance. As Buddha pointed it out, one of the key problems is ignorance. Another key problem is desire, which is the unhealthy desire, or desire put in a wrong direction. Desire can be healthy if it's put in the right direction, such as for enlightenment, liberation, freedom, happiness, love. But if the desire is placed in the wrong direction, it's very destructive. So desire in itself is intended for creative purposes. The true meaning of desire is to create, express, explore, enjoy. And only when we come to distortions, the desire can be placed in the wrong direction and be more and more destructive. So that is the meaning of desire as one of the three key issues. And then there's attachment. Holding on to temporary phenomena, temporary experiences, and not allowing things to flow through and to be open. It's like you're holding onto a candy while there's a whole big jar of honey pot. And you're just, no, I want this candy. And you don't allow something bigger to come through. So essentially, the whole universe is light, is divine. And only some objects, like pebbles, are blocking that light, those rays of divine, the experience of divine. And that's the good news, that the universe and you yourself are divine. You actually are divine. That is the best news for the whole humanity.